Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furr, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to another Cloud Computing Career Q&A session from us at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, joined as always by Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO. Looking good over there. Do you have something new there, Mike? Looking pretty good.
Yeah, I've got some new cameras that I bought for the conference. I went and bought all these 6K and 8K cameras and some more lighting and some special audio gear. So how do we look and sound, everybody?
Well, you look good. Me and Alonzo, we're just on our stuff. So you look great. You look great.
Yeah, crisp, beautiful visuals.
Yes. So welcome to this Cloud Computing Career Training Q&A session where we're going to answer any questions that you have about the cloud architect career, the cloud engineer career. Pretty much any questions that you might have about cloud computing careers, cloud computing career training. If you want to know the difference between cloud architect versus the cloud engineer, if you want to know how to become a cloud architect or how to become a cloud engineer, if you're just interested in about cloud computing jobs or cloud computing training, this is the place to ask the questions. So any and all questions from what is a cloud architect and what is a cloud engineer to what type of certifications do I need? Guess what? Never mind. I will answer that question when it gets here. To what hiring managers are looking for, to why tech skills are not enough. We'll answer all those questions. Speaking of why tech skills aren't enough, we actually have a free guide to answer that question. So Tyrone, if you are there, I believe you're there in the background. Tyrone, if you can put the link for our free ebook about why tech skills aren't enough to be successful. Oh, wrong banner, Tyrone. Wrong banner. But the why tech.
If you want to learn how to become a cloud architect, get that guide too.
So I guess we'll be putting both of them in the chat box here. So we'll put both of them there in the chat box for you. So Tyrone, look out for that link from Tyrone for the why tech skills aren't enough and the free how to get your first cloud architect job guide. Get both of those resources completely free. Anyway, Mike, you got anything to say before we get started here?
So yeah, I just got back from the Go Cloud Careers Conference, and I got to meet so many of our wonderful students and graduates from all over the world. What an experience it was. It was fantastic. I got to see some presentations from people that worked on their executive presence, got to see the college professors, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long talk about strategy. It was a really great time. People got to network. We even worked their way out of an escape room. We had a great time, and I'm happy to be home. Here's the thing. I've been in the tech world now for over 25 years. Yesterday, David and I spoke, David Lithicum and I on the channel. And if you haven't seen it on Generative AI, please do so. And it was fun because, the two of us have been around from the beginning of the cloud to where we are today. And we've both helped so many people in their careers. So, I love this. So ask your questions so I can help you build an elite technology career. I don't want you to be like me, where in that first year I bought course after course after course, spend tens of thousands of dollars on worthless training that was related to somebody else's job other than my job. And in the end, I had to learn a new set of skills to get hired. So the key is ask your questions now so you don't have to make the mistake. Benefit from my 20 years of tech career coaching. I've got students that have graduated now that work at Apple and Amazon and Accenture and Cisco and IBM and Google and KPMG and Capgemini and Deloitte and Accenture and British Broadcasting Company, you name it, they're there. So, leverage, ask the questions you have so you can get to any career goal that you desire. So that's why we're here, to answer your questions, to help you build an elite career at the lowest cost at the fastest period of time. How about you say some words, Alonzo, and welcome everyone.
Absolutely. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We are excited as always to help you get to your best life, your best career, especially as a cloud architect. I am still in my honeymoon phase, if you will, about this weekend. We had an absolute blast. There was so much energy. I can't even just verbalize it. And we just had a wonderful, wonderful time. We're going to have a whole lot of other details about that later on. But as of now, let's focus on getting you to the right trajectory to becoming a cloud architect.
All right. And also, before I forget about it, I want to remind everybody that we've got our free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar tomorrow. Tyrone's going to put that link in the chat box as well. This is a free webinar that will, man, somebody's got my banners all out of whack here. So let me... There we go. All right. So sign up for that. It's How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar, where Mike is going to share the secrets to becoming an architect and answer the questions about whether you need experience, what type of experience matters, what coding skills and certifications you need or don't need. to what hiring managers are looking for, to what cloud architects actually do. And you can learn all of that in that webinar completely free. It's going to be on Zoom. So you can come off mute, you can come on camera, you can talk with us, you can interact with us. We can even quiz you on your skills on the spot and kind of help you pinpoint what you might need to focus on. So that's going to be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to register for that in the chat box there. So don't be shy with your questions. We're here to answer your questions. We're quite busy. We are very busy, but we dedicate this time each week to answer any questions that you have about your cloud career. And truly, we're here just to answer your questions. It usually costs $1,200 per hour to do a one-on-one consultation with Mike, and the waiting list for that was 4 months long. Right now, I believe it's up to 5 months long at this point. But we set this time aside to be able to answer any questions completely free for you. So take advantage of this opportunity. Let's see. We had a question come in before we actually started. I don't know if there was one before this, but it reads, I'd appreciate if you can also talk about how to transition a cloud security job from a cloud admin job.
Absolutely. And MD, sir, I want to make this clear. Whenever you transfer from one tech career to another tech career, it's a completely different set of skills. So if you are a nurse, if you are a paramedic firefighter, or a police officer, or a sysadmin, or a cloud admin, it's going to be the same path for you to become go to cloud security as it would be no matter what your job be. Because whenever we want to transition careers or transition skill sets, we have to learn all of those skills. So like any career, MD, sir, we have to first define the end career. And cloud security is an ambiguous term. It's not enough to build a career. You either want to be in what's called offensive security, which is where you break into systems. You are a paid ethical hacker. It's called penetration testing to identify the problems that they have. Or you want to be a defensive security engineer or architect. And their jobs are completely different. And the skills they need are completely different. So we really need to know your end destination of cloud security architect or cloud security engineer, offensive or defensive. I'm going to work on the assumptions that you have a desire to do defensive cloud security, and that's a dangerous assumption, and I'm going to do that for the benefit of you and the audience. Now, if you want to do offensive security, it's a totally different career path. Please let us know in the chat box. I will cover the cloud security architect, and I will cover the cloud security engineer, which couldn't be different or separated from each other, any more different than separated from each other. To go from any career, cloud admin, doctor, lawyer, firefighter, nurse, to be a cloud security architect, you're going to have to learn how to be an architect. And what does that mean? It means a series of business and technical requirements. So the business requirements and business skills and business knowledge to be an architect are actually greater than the technical skills. I'm going to say this again. To be an architect, you need to know more about the business than you do to be about the tech. To be an engineer, it's more about the tech and more about the business. So I'm going to start with the cloud security architect, and then I'll migrate my way to the cloud security engineer. To be an architect, you have to get the requirements from your clients and your customers. What are their goals? So to be an architect, the first and most critical things are your communication skills, because without them, you get the wrong information, you design the wrong thing, and you've got nothing. So the next thing are your leadership skills, because whenever you're in architecture, you're going to have to lead other engineers and lead the client into getting to your goal. Now, whenever we're in a security architect role, we're almost exclusively selling. And whether that's internal stakeholders or we're selling to clients, we're constantly selling, so you need sales skills. Now, MD, to be a cloud security architect, you're going to need a lot of business skills and business acumen, and here's why. When you propose a $50 million security solution, you've got no customer is going to want to pay for it. And you're going to have to build a business case to show them the risk that they have and how your solution mitigates the risk and the expected value of that. So you're going to need business skills for that. Now, when you're done that, it's design skills to be a cloud security architect, which are not the same as how do you configure the firewalls. It's how do you architect your DMZs? How do you design the security policy for the enterprise, for example? What type of anti-malware system should they use? Does the company need to hire somebody to do penetration testing to see what kind of weaknesses they have, for example? How would you create an encryption policy for the organization? What are their identity and access management systems need to look like? See, these are the kind of things that you would need to be as an architect. So the architect is design. So like I said, for the cloud security architect is a business acumen, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, CXO relevancy or relating to the executive team, system design and understanding of how to design. No MDS or the architect will not touch the technology. They will design it, present it, sell it, negotiate it, and that's it. Now, if you wanted to be an engineer, now you're talking a completely different set of skills. The first thing to remember is that most cloud security is not the cloud stuff itself that's ever going to be covered in a certification. The things the cloud providers make, these cloud native tools, are what you would call kind of like the Windows antivirus that's stuck in your computer. It comes by default. It's there, Microsoft makes it, but it's not the same as if you go to Trend Micro. So real cloud security means you're going to have to learn all the next generation firewalls, all the VPN concentrators, all the IDS, IPS system, and all the real security there that's there. Of course, you'll still need to learn the cloud stuff, but 80% of it's going to be non-cloud stuff. So you're going to have to learn Palo Altos and Fortinet and Checkpoint's gear and even F5 to a certain degree on the engineering side. On the engineering side, you're going to have to get good at working with identity and access management systems, although that's more of a sysadmin, cloud admin thing, but you're still going to be there. You're still going to be federating identity and access management systems, et cetera. And you're going to be building it. So for that cloud security engineer, you're going to have to learn a lot about hardening operating systems, removing unnecessary packages, et cetera. How would you harden Windows? How would you harden Linux? Anytime you're in an engineering role, you're going to have to automate things. So an engineer might need to know some Python and some Bash shell scripting and some Windows PowerShell scripting. In security, you're going to have to get involved in a lot of data loss prevention strategies and how to build these things and make them work. Had a lot of SIEM, security event correlation kind of things that you're going to be dealing with and working with those kinds of systems. You're going to have to be able to create scripts to parse through log files. You're going to have to get really good at configuring those firewalls, those access control lists, those security groups, and all of those kind of things. So as you can see, the architect is the system designer and the engineer is the system builder. Those are the skills you need to be good at cloud security. And then, because you're an admin, you're going to have to rebuild your brand, which means I generally recommend some branding training, some resume work, because you want to show that you are now a security person versus an admin person, just like when you change any other job. Great question.
All right. Let's see. Oh, you know what? We forgot to ask everybody. Out loud. Where is everybody from? Thank you, Alonso, for asking that in the chat box. So let us know where all of you are from. We always like to know where everybody's at. It makes us feel good. I had a wild idea last night about a UK version of the conference. Let's see where that gets us. But we got a lot of people in the UK. That's the reason I put that out there. Anyway, so let us know where you're from. We got somebody from South Africa here. I know someone else that's in South Africa, Tyrone.
From our team.
Let us know where all of you are from. All right. So Gregory says, what is the average salary following completion of the Cloud Architect Development Program?
Gregor, it's really dependent a lot upon you. So I had a recent graduate who got a $404,000 job straight out of the program. I also had somebody that decided they didn't want to complete the program and they wanted to take a job for it, and that was the lowest salary we've had, which was about $70,000. They got about a third of the way through the program. They received an offer for a company that was going to train them for a position, and they said, I want it. So the range this year was 70 to 404. Average for what we're seeing is somewhere between 150 and 170, $150 to $170,000 per year outside of the program in the US. about 90 to 100K in the UK, 100,000 pounds in the UK, pays less there. And we've seen a lot of really good job offers in the $300,000 range in Australia and New Zealand. And we've seen some pretty good $200,000, $300,000 offers coming to students in Canada as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're all in local currencies.
I mean, to be fair, you know, if somebody came along, and it's kind of your situation when you didn't quite finish your master's degree, Mike, because somebody came along and was like, here's this big pot of gold we got for you. I mean, if somebody came along, offered me 70K to be trained, like you're going to pay
I don't blame the person.
And then on top of that, if I remember correctly, it was you know, upon completion of this program or whatever it is, your starting salary would be, your starting negotiating position would be double.
Yeah.
plus the bonus and commissions. I'm like, I would have been. I've been like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
I mean, seriously, he got paid to finish our program effectively.
Exactly.
I have no problem with that. But you know, I like to be honest.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's like somebody. It's like, yeah, the guy that didn't quite finish but got a job, he's getting paid to be trained. It's great.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Okay.
From Saeed, here I go. Currently, I'm focused on an Azure platform rather than another platform as of now. Is this worth, or do I need to learn others too to become a cloud engineer?
Well, Saeed, I want you to understand this. 98% of companies use more than one cloud, which means if you only know one cloud, the reality is there's no jobs for you anywhere in the world. So I'd like you to think about it a little differently. Don't learn Azure, learn the cloud. Don't learn AWS, learn the cloud. Don't learn Google, learn the cloud. And here's what I mean by that. Would you focus on learning to drive a Toyota and only a Toyota and not know how to drive a Ford, a Honda, a Chevy, a Mercedes, a BMW? No. And I don't know why people try to do this in the cloud. So what if I told you that almost every cloud is identical? And I've been working on clouds now since 1996. The only thing that's different is the name. So right now, Alonzo calls this a polo shirt that I'm wearing right now. At home, I call it a pukamiso because that's what we call it in Greek. My brother calls it a golf shirt.
I got a funny one for you. I call it a collared shirt. Apparently, when I told Dr. Johnson that he had to wear a collared shirt to the conference, he thought I meant button up. And so when he gets to the conference and he sees you in a polo, he looks at me and says, I could have wore a polo. I was like, well, I said you could wear a collar, but to your own thing. I call it a collared shirt. You call it a polo. Everybody calls it something different.
And that's the key. So I want you to understand this, Saeed. The virtual machine that VMware created in 1999 is identical to the AWS EC2 instance, Azure Virtual Machine, Oracle Virtual Machine, or Google Compute Engine instance. Identical. Now, while we're at it, object storage is the same that we have if we buy it from Dell EMC, if we get it from AWS and they make up this ridiculous name of S3. Microsoft makes up a more ridiculous name called Blob, and Google makes at least some reasonable name that they call, what's the word I'm looking for? Cloud storage. So, you know, that's the key to remember here, is it's all the same. So if you want to be an engineer, what do you need to know? You need to know Linux, right? Because almost all systems run Linux, and it's the same Linux on Amazon. You know, Amazon Linux looks and feels a whole lot like Red Hat or CentOS, or because it's based off of that, Oracle Linux. They're always the same. Or you're using Ubuntu Linux. Guess what? It's the same on all clouds. Now, you probably need to know some Python scripting to be a cloud engineer. Not an architect, but an engineer. Guess what? Same Python. On AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, Alibaba, it doesn't matter. Now, the infrastructure as code piece, there you need to know, but don't worry about AWS CloudFormation. That's for the trash. Azure Bicep is for the trash. We've got this cool Terraform that works on all clouds. So use it. 98% are there. So as you can see, if you learn the cloud, not Azure, not AWS, not Oracle, you need to know. So the key is learn the tech, learn how the tech works, and then pick your favorite cloud provider that you feel like dealing with. And by favorite, I mean whichever one that you flipped the coin and you landed on, or you said AWS or Azure, whichever one your customers work. And then learn the names that their marketing department called for their services and learn how to configure them. Bob's your uncle, you're good to go. And you can do that on any cloud. So learn the cloud. Learn the underlying technology of the cloud. What is it? It's just somebody else's network and data center that they're running space in there. Which means if you know routers and switches, you know the cloud. If you learn servers and server virtualization, you know the cloud. If you learn containers and container orchestration, you know the cloud. If you know firewall, you know the cloud. So same thing we've always used for the last couple decades. Now virtualize, learn that, and you will be good to go. And Azure is a great cloud to work on. AWS and Azure, the two biggest clouds in the world right now, fighting head to head. Who knows who becomes the biggest long term? I can tell you who's the most profitable. That's Azure by a large margin. That doesn't mean it's a better cloud.
Sorry, apparently my camera got cut off somehow. Gregory says, what role follows the cloud architect position?
Gregory, what do you want your next job to be? There are no rules. There's no rule that says you have to start in the mailroom, and then after you leave the mailroom, you've got to be a receptionist, and then you've got to be an assistant, and then you've got to be there. You can get any job you want. Now, I know many cloud architects and network architects and solution architects who move straight into the CIO or CTO roles. I know other architects that said, you know what? I didn't like this architecture thing. I thought I was going to get to touch the technology, and I'm not allowed to. And they go back to engineering because they really wanted to be an engineer and not an architect. I know other architects that become enterprise architects. There's architects like me that go on and become business architects, which is really more of a management and strategy consultant. Whatever role you want it to be, but because the architect role is a leadership role, it moves very easy into, VPs of engineering management, directors of engineering, VP of architecture, director of architecture, CIO, CTO, sales roles, business development roles, or even marketing roles, any of those businessy roles, because the architect is 80% business, 20% tech. So, but an enterprise architect's a great new role, Gregory. Any of them would make you happy.
All right. So don't be shy, everybody. Ask us your questions while we're here. Got a lot of people from all over the place. We got Gregory in Atlanta, Baban in Wisconsin, Craig North in North Georgia. Oh, Craig, good to see you here.
Good to see you, Craig.
Of course, Tyrone is in Cape Town. Nate Ricks is in Chesapeake, Virginia. Fabio is in Brazil. Sao Paulo, right down the road from Leo on our team. Got Alexandria, got Jersey City. So yeah, ask us your questions, and we'll love to answer them. The next one's going to be a fun one because I got a feeling we're going to have a little bit of a difference on our answers, but at the end it's going to be similar. I'll let Mike start this one off. Diggleman says, hey, I'm new in the program. I'm being reached out to for non-architect jobs. Should I take one of these jobs for a few months until I'm ready for an architect role, or should I just wait?
Diggleman, it's going to depend to be on your situation. I actually did 2 MBA programs. Here's the reason I did 2 MBA programs. I was 75, 80% through my first MBA program, and I got an offer on Wall Street that would be about double what anybody would hope to get out of the MBA program. So I ran straight to Wall Street, and 10 years later, I felt 5-10 years later, I got bad. I felt bad. I never finished it, and went to another school and started from the beginning and the end. The old school didn't even want to take their credits after 5 years, but I didn't care. So I did it. Was it worth it for me? The answer is yes. Now, if you need to work and you're lacking in finances and you have the opportunity to make money, go do it. Finish my program. Like I said, you're in the program until you're hired. We don't rush you out of there. You get a year in the live classes, which we could potentially extend for a small fee. And the remaining part of our program is until you're hired. So, why not? If you're in a goal to get to your ultimate goal as fast as possible and you can afford to not work, then go ahead and do that too. It's really based upon what your goals are. And I don't know enough about your particular situation. But I will tell you, you need to have some security in your life. Can you afford to live? Can you feed yourself? Do you have family to take care of? And whatever those things are, That is going to drive your thing. You know, the funny thing is when I used to practice internal medicine, I was a nurse practitioner, and then I became an architect, and really it's the same job. And the reason it's the same job is you have to take in all the information you need. You know, for example, what's your financial situation like right now? Is it good enough to not work for several more months to complete the program? I don't know that. Only you can answer that. Would you feel more comfortable working now, having some security behind you? If so, go do that and still get through the program. But so figure that out. But I think any of the options would be good for you. And I've got lots of people like Delroy Batt. He joined us, took a security job, and then about a year later, he stayed in the program and he got the cloud security architect job. But he was hired within the first couple months, and then he had an income throughout the rest of the time. Any of these things are good. Just do what you love and be happy. How about you, or Chris, or Alonzo?
I feel the same thing. We provide a strong understanding, a strong framework, a strong development program, but ultimately, Diggleman, it's about what you need to do to take care of your responsibilities, not only for yourself but for your family. So I definitely underscore what Mike's decision is. If you need to work, you go ahead and work, but make sure that whether you take on that responsibility or you don't, make sure that your underlining focus is understanding what it takes to become a cloud architect and going through the program and understanding every fundamental bit of it, so that once you are ready to take on another role, specifically a cloud architecture role, you're going to be in that position to jump right in, be ready to interview, and ultimately take that position.
Yeah, I agree completely. Do what you got to do. You know, if you need to work. Make sure you're we've hit that nail on the head. Not gonna hit that anymore. But if don't take the job expecting to parlay whatever you're gonna do in that job into the architect role. So just keep that in mind. If it's a non-architect role, don't have that expectation that you that you're going to be able to utilize that to your advantage. There's some obviously there's some exceptions. You know, if let's say you get a security engineer role, there's pieces of that technical knowledge of security that you could parlay, that you can build upon, but it's not going to be 100% relatable and carry over to a architect role. But they're, same if you took a network engineer role. Of course, the understanding of the technologies that you'll have from that role will, of course, be helpful. But again, it's not going to be a 100%. All right, I can use everything I've done in this job to get me to this job. So I just wanted to put that out there because I completely agree with what Mike and Alonzo said, and they stole my thunder. So that's all I got to add to it. Just want to make sure that there's that realistic understanding of, okay, I'm taking this role, and here's the reason why. Here's what I'm going to be able to get from it, if anything, and let me keep doing the program. So. All right. Okay. Not sure if we're able to give a response to this one, but in the sake of I don't like to cherry pick questions. We're gonna put it up there, and we'll go or we won't. So Folashaki says, "Hi, Mike. What's your take on autistic people attaining the skills to become a world-class architect? I ask because they struggle with the social aspect of the role."
Well, Folashaki, I want to start out by saying there's various levels of autism. There's people that are autistic that cannot fit into society. And I know physicians that are also autistic that are having extremely high-level roles and doing wonderful in the world. So some of that depends on the level of functioning, and some of that is based upon the amount of therapy and proper education the person got in their lifetime. But Folashaki, 13 doctors told me I'd never walk or even be able to sit properly in a chair for more than 5 minutes at a time. I defied all of them through an aggressive form of physical therapy. I've taken people with extraordinary disabilities and helped them achieve great things in their life. So the point is never letting anything stop us. Now, the question is, how teachable is the person? The challenge is some autistic people struggle to connect with others, and others develop really great relationships too. And that's the thing. Now, in an engineering world where there's no people interaction, an autistic person can do just as good, sometimes a lot better than everybody else. Now, when we get into these architect roles, it depends on the autistic person. Some, like I said, some can achieve incredibly good things, and I wouldn't let autism stop me from achieving anything. I'm going to say that again. If I was autistic, I wouldn't let it stop me from achieving anything. I would work as if my life depended on it and hopefully try to achieve more. The key is somewhere along the line, we do have to develop people relationship abilities. We have to present, we have to lead, we have to sell. And we can all make the most of these skills. And as long as we get the proper training and education, I think we can all try it. But everybody is different. Some people can achieve more than others. And that doesn't, we're not just talking about autistic versus not autistic, even with people in general. Some people learn things faster. Some people move better than other people. Some people have a good eye for something. Somebody else is super creative. Somebody else is super analytical. What really matters, fellow Shaki, is that we figure out what we want to do, figure out how to get there with our strengths, because I believe we can pretty much all learn how to do almost anything within reason with the right training and preparation plan. So I wouldn't let it stop me. And if I was struggling with social things, I wouldn't let that struggle stop me either. I used to be an introvert. I technically still am, but keep that quiet.
From Gregory, I am a network engineer by trade and currently in the low six-figure range. I ultimately want to be in the $200 to $500 range. What would $200 to $500,000 range? My mistake. What would advise me to do? What would you advise me to do to become as a new cloud architect student?
Well, Greggy, if it's all you're looking for is $200,000 to $500,000 a year, and you're already a network engineer, I would get a CCIE level networking knowledge. I don't care about the certification, but I care about the knowledge. I'd focus on your business acumen, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, and I'd go work as the $300,000 to $500,000 a year network architect, if that's your whole goal. You wouldn't even need to learn the cloud. You can already do it in networking. Most of the really good network engineers that I know were earning $200,000 a year back around 1999 to 2000, and they've continually earned more. I do know some that earn less than that. Now, what do I consider a really good engineer? Someone that's an expert on BGP or OSPF or ISIS and BGP or one or two major routing protocols. They're focused, they're dedicated. They're not working on Python scripting. They're not working on Linux. It's pure networking. It's almost exclusively complicated networking and complicated routing. Now, if your goal is to become a great cloud architect, well, guess what I would do? I would learn the data center in addition to the network. I'd make sure my networking design skills are rock solid. I'd then learn how to design the stuff in the cloud, because the cloud is it's nothing more than somebody else's network in a data center, but you get real good at the design, and that would be a key. But what is the difference between a $100,000 network engineer and a $500,000 network engineer? Leadership, sales skills, executive presence, business acumen, and emotional intelligence. I can tell you when I had a $150,000 network engineering job, to get a $300,000 network architect job, it was just the business pieces that I just described to you right there. And that was many decades ago, and it was worth a lot more money. So the key is it's always about how well you communicate. Can you go sell this $500 million network architecture? Can you lead? So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That's really what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. But if you want to be a cloud architect, learn the networking in the data center, which we teach you. Focus on those leadership skills. Focus on those sales skills. Focus on the executive presence. Really work hard in that business acumen. And focus on being your best self and giving an awesome presentation. And lastly, Gregory, get interview training. If you're one of our students, you may have already bought it. There's some interview training program, but interview training. And here's why. let's say we're talking about a decent job. A friend of mine had posted a sales engineering job in New Jersey the other day for Cisco. The pay range was 173 to 238 for the base pay in this job. 173 to 238 in the base pay. I want you to think about that. That's almost $70,000 between the top and the bottom paid person. You know what that's based on? The interview. How desirable someone is on the interview. Now, granted, that could have a 20 to 25% bonus on top of that. So it's going to be a good paying job, but that's just the interview. And that's just a basic network sales engineer. But the reason it's paid so much is they're selling in there. You're bringing money into the company, so keep that. But you're going to be a great cloud architect and keep focusing on the business, the interview, the sales, and you'll do wonderful, Gregory.
All right. Paul has got a good question over here. What if management decides that the cloud is too expensive compared to self-hosting?
That's a good one.
When does the cloud become less expensive than self-hosting?
So, Paul, I want to make this real clear. The cloud is almost always more expensive, 2 to 30 times more expensive. It's a lot more expensive. But that's not why we're going to the cloud. We're going to the cloud for the agility, and agility or time to market is everything. So, Paul, I want you to think about it this way, because remember, from an architecture perspective, we're talking about returning on investment capital. I've got two companies, and they're in a race to produce the next video game. Their video games are almost identical. Almost identical. And, here's the thing. If video game company A can get their product to market a month before video game company B, it could be worth billions of dollars to them. Now, who cares if it's going to cost $50 million in the cloud and $30 million in the data center if they're going to get an extra billion? So we're talking about business value, which can be gleaned from agility and speed. Even yesterday, we had David Lithicum, which is a good friend of mine and a great cloud leader, and we're always talking about how the cloud's not going to be cheaper than the data center. But if you're a good architect or you're a good sales rep, you can create a business case. And you can show where the agility is there. But Paul, I also want to advise you on the architecture piece. Just sticking an organization's virtual machines on the cloud is probably going to double or triple their cost. So here's where the cloud gives us agility. Let's say we've got a website, Paul. And right now I can host my website. It's a big enterprise. And we can put it on 256 core servers. Okay? I may be able to buy those 2 servers for about $600,000. They may be operating at 2% all year long, which means I'm wasting money. Now, on the cloud, I might get away with 2 4-core servers or 2 8-core servers, and then I could auto-scale out. So for a website, the agility of the cloud, the auto-scale of the cloud makes it great. Now, by comparison, for our organization, I have a lab. And in my lab, we have 10 systems, each one with 24 cores and 256 gigs of RAM. Now, AWS wanted $11,000 a month for this. I bought all these systems, installed the OpenStack cloud, and paid 10 grand versus $11,000 a month. So in one case, I built my own cloud. And in another case, I would have paid close to $400,000 to AWS. Yeah, 10,000, 400,000, it's there. But it's based upon my use case. But I didn't need to buy routers. I didn't need to buy switches. I didn't need to buy firewalls. I didn't need a $200,000 CCIE and 2 cloud engineers. I built it myself. So it's all there. But the key is management's not going to run away from the cost if you've done it for good reason, if you're giving agility and you're adding business value. Why don't you join me on the Cloud Architect Challenge next week? And we'll have you design the systems on the cloud. It's completely free. We'll have some fun. But I want you to understand the value of a tool. Here we've got a phone right now. It's an iPhone 15. I'm actually trying to see where the comments are coming in while I'm watching my screen here. Right now, this phone's what, $1,200,000? I have no idea what I paid for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I just don't know. Now, if on this phone I had John Chambers' phone number, Andy Jassy's phone number in it, I had Tony Robbins' phone number in it, now I could sell you this phone for $100,000 and it's still the same phone because now you can use it to conduct business. So the cost and the value. Now, I don't know if you're an engineer and an architect, but an engineer thinks of cost just like an accountant. I go to the accountant. The accountant says, Mike, you spent $30,000 on cameras this week. And I'd say, yeah, probably true. On video cameras. And they'd say, okay, there's a cost to that. Now, the finance professional would say, Mike, if you spend $30,000 on camera, you may generate this much revenue in video. So, do I have great cameras? I invest a lot in my cameras and my audio gear and things because it gives my students a classroom-like experience. And I don't want my students to feel like they were on a course that was filmed by a webcam. That's not education. It's got to feel real. So, the key is we have to look at the cost versus the value in everything we do. The cloud offers significant value. The data center offers better performance and lower cost and higher security if we do it right. But there's some things in the cloud with regards to agility that are so good, we can't not use them. And that's why many years ago, if you watched our channel, we said the best architecture is going to be hybrid cloud, because the things that are the highest performance are going to be in the data center. The things that need the most security can be in the data center, and we can burst out to the cloud for additional capacity, near limitless capacity. Good job. We can put our agility things on the cloud. We can do so many cool things. We can use the cloud for transport when all of our supply chain partners are there. So there's so many great things about the cloud. But we've got to get out of thinking like an engineer or thinking like an accountant. We have to think like a business executive when we describe these things, and then it's not hard. Look, I've closed billion-dollar deals. And believe me, Paul, nobody wakes up and says, I'd like to spend $1 billion on technology, Mike. How can I spend it? Nobody. They come to me and they say, Mike, these are our business challenges. What can you do to make our sales reps more efficiently? What can you do to crank out 2% additional productivity on my 100,000 employees that I have? What can you do to help me purchase fuel contracts cheaper based upon gathering of information and news cycles? That's what technology is. It's an enabler. And we are there to help enable things. That's why we do what we do as architects. And I want to make sure that you don't look at the cost, you look at the benefits. And that's how you close big deals. There will always be the cloud. The first cloud I worked on was Frame Relay in 1996. Then I worked on the ATM cloud, then the BGP cloud, RFC 2547, then the VPLS cloud. Now these clouds. There's going to be plenty more clouds, I promise you. Paul, I hope I answered your question. If you've got more, and if anybody else has questions, please ask them so I can assist you to reach your career goal.
All right, I'll let Mike give the nice answer on this next question. I'll give the mean answer on the next question.
Oh boy.
Chigazor said, I'll let you read it off, Alonso, so I can save my breath.
All right, Chigazor. Greetings, Mike, Chris, and Alonzo. When is the best time during the program to start preparing our LinkedIn profiles and resume for recruiters to find us?
When you can do the job. So, I mean, I'll give you a little more around that, but I also want you to understand this. If you can't do the job and you go in an interview, let's say Alonzo couldn't do the job and he interviews me, I'll feed him some cookies during the interview, I'll send him home, and I'll never take his call again. So,
and you'll go and he'll end up in the tracking system.
And he'll end up in the system as a never hire again.
Yep.
Now, 5 minutes later, Chris comes in and he's a rock star and I hire him. Or Chris comes in, he's not ready for the job. I put another big X next to Chris that says, do not interview or talk to in the future. So you don't want to ever go on an interview until you're ready. Now, that does not mean you start working on things. So Chigazor, if you're actually following our program, once you reach a certain stage in the program, it's going to unlock the resume and LinkedIn content around the time where you're going to know what to post so you can make yourself look good as opposed to making yourself look bad. You've got to be able to do the job. Now, sometimes I wish tech was like medicine, where first you went to school for 4 years, and then you went to school for another 4 years, and then you did another 4-year internship. And then by the time you were done, anybody could hire you because you knew what you were doing. But there are no national boards and national residencies in tech. There's a certification which anybody can pass with knowing nothing because they can have somebody take the exam for you. You can buy a copy of the exam, or there's exam dumps all over the internet with the actual questions that are going to be on the exam. So unfortunately, we don't have anything like that in tech. The closest thing we have to competency in tech is the CCIE, where Cisco would make you build something after they give you a scenario that's so complicated that you'd actually have to understand the protocols well enough to build it. But there's not that. So I want you to get great, Chigazor. I want you to learn how to be an architect, be a great architect. And when you are ready, that's when I want you to go out there. But still, You can follow the branding things in the program and create content to get a following and create some brand awareness of you. If you know the business piece and not the tech piece, you can still talk about the business. If you know the tech, not the business, you can still go out there to create an audience for yourself. But wait till you're good. The worst thing I see people do, and none of our students do this, thankfully, is people say, oh, today I set up an S3 bucket website. And I'd look at them and say, yeah, well, don't post that. That's posting that you learned how to do something that you could teach a 6-year-old to do in 5 minutes. Post things which show that you're good, you're knowledgeable, you're capable. So wait till you have some good knowledge and then post it. But wait till you're ready for the job. And as soon as you do that, you're going to be great.
So right, I don't have to give the main answer. You did it nice enough, Mike. Yeah. When you're ready to do the job and when you get to the proper place in the program. Now, the bad thing is that don't be one of the people that just click, submit, now I'm at the LinkedIn part. Oh, now I'm at the resume part. Now I'm at the interview part. But I haven't actually done anything. I just clicked a bunch of stuff, never went to a live class, never watched a recording, never talked to anyone else in the program, never tested my competency with other people in the program. Don't do that. Because you can do that. I've seen plenty of people try that. And then they get to the interview and they do exactly what Mike just said. So yes, when you're ready and you because the whole point of the community is it's a proving ground. It's the community, if you are a part of it, the community will be honest with you and help you on your way to reaching your goals. So take advantage of that. Perfect question for an extrovert like Mike. How does a cloud architect break out of being an introvert?
Well, Nate, I am completely an introvert, but I feel a whole lot like an extrovert. You know, here's one of the things that I learned in life. If you're afraid of something, go do it. So I'll give you an example. I've always been petrified of snakes. I don't know why. Snakes scare me, and yet I live in Florida. And, you know, Nate, it was never a problem until I adopted this beautiful little girl named Cindy the cat. And my cat goes outside. 5 minutes later, she's got a snake in her mouth and she's bringing it into my living room. Snakes and lizards. She brings me like 2 or 3 of them every day. So I got really good at learning how to carry snakes out of the house. And guess what? I'm no longer scared of them. But I was an introvert. And here's what I got. A good buddy of mine said, I'm going to give you introvert therapy. And I said, what's that? He said, I scheduled you to give about 50 speeches. He said, I told everybody you were the world's greatest leader in IP multicast, and you're going to go talk to everybody. I said, huh? He said, this week I need you to go to DC. On the way back from DC, go to San Jose, then stop in San Francisco, then go to London, and go to Dubai. He said, spend the weekend in Dubai. It's real nice. Then I need you to go to Sydney. When you're done, then I need you to go to Brisbane. Also, you got to go to Melbourne. Stop in Auckland, New Zealand, and come back and stop at Hong Kong. And by the time I was done that, guess what? I had no fear. So the key is just go out there and do it. Join meetings. Nate, I was really happy to see you at the conference. I really was. We went to the same business school for our MBAs. I saw you up there. You did what I would assume all high potential leaders do. They sit in the front of the class. They take notes. You were taking notes in addition to the 3 cameras that we had that were taking videos. I saw you creating your notes there, and I loved that. Go out there and meet people. Go out there and talk to people. Literally go out there and really do it, and you'll feel good. But, you know, Nate, we also did have Todd come in, and we talked about various forms of breathing and various types of meditation to make you comfortable when you are uncomfortable. And, you know, it's actually funny, Nate, one of the many things I think about Todd is that, you know, he introduced me to yoga 17 years ago. Todd and his wife, Tamara, amazing people. And they put me in some ridiculous yoga position 15 years ago. And I stayed there for about 5 minutes. And what was explained to me was when you can breathe yourself to being comfortable in something that's uncomfortable, everything else is easy for you. So go out there, Nate. I saw what you did at the conference. Keep doing it. You're going to be good to go.
right. So Gregory clarified earlier that he's in the program, and his question about his network background was related to becoming a cloud architect and not focusing on the network.
Okay. And that's great. if the easiest way to go earn that much money would be in networking. The long-term career in the cloud makes more sense. Gregory, I love it. That's why I did. I went from networking to the cloud, but it's always important to know the goal.
All right. I want to ask anybody, if you've got any questions, please ask them. We want to make sure we answer any questions that you might have. Haven't had any new questions here in a little bit. I've got a couple to get to, but ask us your questions. Yes, Ghost Cat, this is live. That's why I'm asking for questions. So, Ghost Cat, if you've got a question, please give us a question. All right, so we'll do Funny Man Rhymes, and I'll give an answer, and then I'll see if Mike wants to elaborate. Funny Man Rhymes, please, can you help me explain Redshift? We have an AWS boot camp where you can go and find in the timestamps. I guarantee you that somewhere in those timestamps that Mike goes over Redshift. At least I'm 99% sure that he went over Redshift in the AWS bootcamp.
Yeah,
I could
pretty
be wrong.
sure. I did. So Funny Man Rhymes, all Redshift is an AWS proprietary data warehouse. Guess what? 98% of organizations are multi-cloud. And since 98% of organizations are multi-cloud, you can pretty much assume that any database made by Amazon, Microsoft, or Google, you probably can't use. Now, what will most organizations use as a data warehouse is typically Postgres. And guess what? You can put Postgres on a virtual machine in AWS, Azure, Google, and it's going to work just great. So that's all we're talking about. But if you think of things like Amazon Aurora, generally speaking, they're going to be swapped out with something like the Oracle database. If you're thinking AWS wants to talk about their DynamoDB, that's going to be replaced with Apache Cassandra or MongoDB based upon the read load and write load. And if we're dealing with Redshift, we're probably going to swap that out with something like Postgres in reality. Now, this is a question about careers. You can get rid of that, Chris. Yeah, this is a time on careers, so we don't really talk about technology here. We do have training if you're interested, but I was giving you some free training because you asked, and I love to help.
All right, give away the cart there, Mike. Calm it down. So if you've got any career questions, Funny Man, please ask us. We want to make sure that we can help you. And sorry, apparently the loop button got stuck, and I'm like, stop. I only wanted it one buzz, not 50 buzzes. So, all right. No reason to be sorry, Ghost Cat. No, there's no late. Not for this. If you've got a question, put it in here.
Everything's recorded.
Yes. So, Angelo, good to see you.
Always thrilled to see you, Angelo. Always.
Funny Man says, thanks a lot, sir. All right. Yassel says, how do I switch from a software development to cloud engineering or cloud architect? Okay, these are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
give us a top one. Give us your primary one, and then give us the one that you're not like, I'm not too sure. Is cloud architect your top one, or is cloud engineer your top one? We'll come back to you after you give us that clarification. All right. Gregory says, do you provide affiliate link program for students to take advantage of? No. I got enough complicated things on my hands. Like keeping track of my cloud. All right. Test SOC. How is the demand for cloud security architect versus cloud architects in the market? Can the cloud security architect reach 200 to 500?
Well, test SOC, there's an incredible number of architect jobs that are actually out there, and it's easy to get to 200 to 500. There's also $800,000 architect jobs too. I'll give you an example, but it's going to pay less to be a security architect than it would be to be a generic cloud architect. I was a principal architect in less than 2 years. It was no big deal to do. The difference between me and everybody else is the rest of the people focused on certifications, and I didn't. I focused on being a great architect. So Microsoft average principal architect pay is $379. but the pay range is $300 to $495. That's pretty typical. Let's look at Google. Average principal architect is $508,000 a year with a pay range of $394 to $677. This is directly off of Glassdoor. We've got an Amazon one over here too. Amazon pays a little less, but it still pays relatively well. Average pay is $372 with a pay range of $291 to $491. And this is very easy to get. Now, I want you to understand this. The closer you are to the business, the more you will earn. The closer you are to technology like engineering or security, the less you will earn. And here's the reason why. The goal of the architect is not just to design the technology, it's to improve the organization's business performance. So Tessoc, I'm going to go to the cloud architect and then I'll get into cloud security too. There is a demand for cloud security architects as well as cloud architects. And if you're good at either one, you'll have a job within 3 days without even looking because the demand is that much. I can make a LinkedIn post and get 10 job offers. That's how much the demand is for a good architect. Now, here's what an architect does, Tessoc. We don't touch the technology. First thing I've got to do is go talk to the C-suite. And this is why architects get paid so well, especially if you're farther away from the technology. Now I got to talk to the CEO of $1 billion or $1 trillion company and figure out, how their business runs, what their business strategy is, and what's their vision for the future. That takes business acumen knowledge, that takes CXO relevancy knowledge, and that takes a lot of things. Oh, by the way, Tessoc, the average salary of someone with strong business acumen skills, according to salary.com, is $558,000 a year. So that's why the closer you are to the business, the further away you are from the tech, the higher your income's going to be. So first I have to do that. The next thing Tessoc and any real architecture, not like the kind of thing that you'd learn in a certification, but we do as architects, is as follows. We next evaluate how the business operates. What's the customer journey like? How does the supply chain work? How do people sell the product? Those kinds of things. And so we have to map all those business processes out. And then we have to work with the customer to say, okay, this is what you want your business to operate like in the future. Let's figure out how we want your business to operate. And it's called the business architecture. We work with them to create a new business architecture. Now, of course, we've got to go from the current state to the future states. We've got to do a gap analysis and figure out the changes. Next, only after that, we can evaluate their data. We can evaluate their technology, their applications, and see what they look like now, and then see what do we need to do to get to the ultimate business architecture and the company's vision. Then after that, we've got to negotiate with stakeholders. We've got to do some smoothing. We got to write up we've got to write up the architecture. We've got to convince other people to buy it, sell it, negotiate it, and then we're on to a new client. Somebody else builds it. So you will always earn more as a cloud architect or an enterprise architect than a cloud security architect. But I've got people plenty of $200,000 cloud security architect jobs, no big deal. But the $4, $5, $6, and $7, and $800,000 architect jobs are not going to be focused on security. They're going to be focused on the business and not the technology. And I recently had somebody get a $404,000 job straight out of our program. Now, they did have a tech engineering background, but I've gotten a lot of $300,000 jobs straight out of our cloud architect career development program too. So it's not hard to get $200,000 to $500,000 at all. In fact, the good network architects that I know were earning $200,000 back in 1996 and 1997, which is worth $500,000 or $600,000 today, but they were good. So you can easily do it, but you got to get the right training, and it's not going to be certification.
All right. So Yassel clarified that they want to be a cloud architect.
Okay.
Their original question was, how do I switch from software development?
Yassel, and we can help you. The first thing I want to let you know that everything you learn is valuable because life is cumulative. There is no programming, no software, no anything in the cloud architect space. But that's okay. I used to practice internal medicine, and now I'm an architect, and I have been for more than 25 years. So you have to learn the network and the data center because cloud architects don't code. We don't look at code. We design systems. Virtual machines, containers, load balancers, firewalls, storage, that's all data and network center. So you have to learn the network and the data center. Then you have to learn design skills. Design skills. So there are your technical piece. But Yassel, you have to remember, this is not the biggest techie job in the world. This is a business job. So you must learn business acumen, which is business knowledge, almost to the level of an MBA, but not quite. You must know how to sell, because as architects, our pay is based upon how much we can sell. You must learn how to give a great presentation. First, the cloud architect interview ends with a presentation to a panel of people, just like the real job would be. And you'll be presenting every single day. You must learn how to lead, which is definitely something that you need to do, because you're not going to be designing a system by yourself. You're going to be talking to the customer, go back to your team, and then you're going to be leading a large team. And it is the best job in the world. Why don't you get our completely free Cloud Architect job guide? The link, I'll have my team pop it in the description below. In addition to that, we have a free webinar on Thursday, and we'll tell you a list of every one of those networking and data center skills. You'll know what to do. Whether you train with us or go get an MBA somewhere and then go learn design somewhere else, you'll know exactly how to get hired yes on. I promise you, this is the best job in the entire world. I spent 6 months as an engineer when I was younger, and I have the most respect for engineers you can't possibly imagine. I love them. They make my designs come to life, but I got to tell you, it's a lot easier being an architect than an engineer, and to get double or triple the pay and not work so hard, I can highly recommend it. But I love engineers. I just wish the engineers got the pay and the respect they deserve for all their hard work.
From Ghost Cat, how will blockchain and cloud change the future?
Well, blockchain is probably dead. So I don't know whether blockchain is going to make it or not. There were lots of good uses of blockchain. For the most part, the only people that ever used it was cryptocurrency, as opposed to tracking of drugs and tracking of equipment. It never really got used for that. And quite frankly, there's better technology that can be used to track equipment than blockchain that's existed for longer, that's more based upon the network. So I don't know. As far as the cloud, got to remember, all the cloud is somebody else's data center and somebody else's network. So the first clouds of 1996 to today's clouds, it's not that the cloud is going to change the future. It's the cloud is going to enable businesses to do things better. Now that means, maybe instead of having 50 software engineers, I have 5 software engineers in generative AI. Is that better? I don't know. If I'm the CEO of a business, it's better to have 45 less engineers. If I'm the software developers, it's a pretty horrible thing. It all depends on where you're at, where you're sitting, where your vantage point plays. So, I kind of keep that. So, I don't know. It's more limited to your creativity. Now, I remember years ago, I could see where it was going. I think we have to take a step back. I think we need to, as a society, start spending more time with our families. I think we need to get off of our digital devices and go out there and meet people and talk to people. But having access to the data that you have anywhere, having access to on-demand compute resources pretty much anywhere, having the agility to test things. I remember there were times where I did network testing, and what we were doing was we were ordering hundreds of computers and Ixias to try and generate traffic. Now on the cloud, I hire an engineer. They write me a Terraform script. I spin up 1,000 virtual machines, spew data as fast as I can, and say, oh, the system survived. How convenient is that? But what I think it'll really do, Ghost Cat, is it will enable parts of the world that don't have the ability to invest in technology to actually get technology that they never had before. Sure, they'll use the cloud technology, then they'll probably build their private clouds for cost and efficiency purposes later. But I think you're going to see the cloud enables a new level of engineering in Africa. I think Africa will become an engineering capital of the world, along with India and Pakistan. And I think many great lives are going to be changed. There's going to be a lot of great people that are going to work remotely with this technology, and I think it's going to do some wonderful, wonderful things.
From David. Hi, Mike. I'm a software engineer and use the cloud here and there, but I do want to solidify my knowledge as a cloud architect. What path would you suggest that I take on my journey?
David, I recommend you download get the free How to Become a Cloud Architect. I also recommend you take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and I recommend you attend the free webinar. You're a software engineer, which means you know how to write code. that has absolutely zero to do with architecture. It has no more than a person that can fix an airline's engine, a person that can fix the an airplane's engine doesn't necessarily know how to fly a plane. So David, if I were to tell you how would you design a secure demilitarized zone for a web application, that's architecture, not how do you write code. If I were to tell you have 10 different links across internet service providers to the internet, and you'd like to load share across asymmetric links without getting out of our packets, how would you do it? That's system design. If I told you we're looking to help an airline purchase fuel contracts at a lower price based upon historical information, that's architecture. Again, it has nothing to do with the technology. So when you go from engineer to architect, you have to do the following. You have to show the world you're not an engineer, that you are in fact an architect. And it takes a lot of rebranding, which we do with our students. You also have to completely change the way you think. You have to change your thinking from what's directly in front of you to the entire big picture. For example, let's say you're writing code right now, and you're writing it to be placed on a server. An organization might have 200,000 servers. It might have 5,000 routers, 1,000 firewalls, and 10,000 connections to 10,000 different remote locations. As that architect, you've got to be focused on the big picture. Big picture, is what we're looking at. So let me give you two examples of engineering versus architecture. And Chris, very good. So let me give you an example. I'm going to show you an engineering view of the world. This happened in my backyard the other day. It was about a month ago now. And there was a little squirrel in my backyard, real cute. Tyrone, if you or Chris, if you can share the squirrel. This is what an engine, and we can remove that little banner so we can see the squirrel. No, the David Jonathan banner. Okay. So right now, this is what you can see in my backyard. You can see the squirrel. Now, if you were if you were a squirrel podiatrist and how to work on the squirrel's foot, you'd be looking at the squirrel in front of you. If you're a software engineer, you got to focus on exactly that squirrel. Now, by comparison, I'm going to show you the architect view. The architect can't touch the technology. They have to be focused on the big picture, because when you're focused on the technology, you can't see what's really going on. Now, when I showed you that picture of the squirrel, I didn't show you the whole story intentionally. This is really what was going on. See that cute little thing with the pointy ears and the towel? Her name is Cindy. She's real sweet. She's my beautiful little daughter. She's a cat. And she was thinking how to turn that squirrel into dinner. Now, thankfully, I brought Cindy in the house before she was able to hurt the squirrel, because I hate when she brings me squirrels. Lizards and snakes, one thing, squirrels, it just give me the creeps. But the point is if you're an architect, you have to focus on the big picture, and the big picture is, in fact, the business. So hope I answered your question with that. Download the free guide. Come to the free webinar. And if you want, a year from now, you'll have a great cloud architect job, which I promise you is the best thing you've ever done.
From Angelo. Question, I have daughters. I encourage them to go after any goal they set their mind and heart to. What advice would you give to girls who are trying to break into the mainly career-dominated architecture field?
I'd say do it. They'll have 10 times the advantages. So, Angelo, as hiring managers in tech companies, we're bombarded people saying, please hire more female people. And we always say, I want to. Give me more female people to interview and I'll hire more female people. So I think they're going to be really, really great. Plus, Angela, I know you. Not only are you a world-class developer and enterprise architect, after the fact, I think you'll be able to teach your students anything. But the point is encourage them to do so. And Alonzo, I know you're working on an MBA, and there's something called scarcity as it pertains to and supply and demands. If there's not enough of a certain quantity of a certain individual or a certain skill, and there's a demand for them, they're going to pay more. But I would tell them this: focus on being very good at presentation skills, very good at sales, and focus on being good leaders. And that way, when you've got a person that's a more rare commodity, and they say they're a more rare bird, so to speak, if you're in the bird watching business, and you make them so great and that bird has even better feathers, so to speak, boy, everybody wants to see there. So Angelo, and I want to ask Alonzo too, because Alonzo also has a daughter and he's making sure she does well. But Angelo, any daughter of yours or child of yours, I think would be highly successful.
Yeah. What I would recommend, my daughter, she just started her first year in college. And one thing that we always aspired for our children is to achieve, think about the goal, think about what you want to do, and let's help you get there. The one thing we suggest for them is to never give up, be tenacious, be focused, and be dedicated on that. So it's no matter what is going on out there. There's so many people, so many women who have broken ground on football, aeronautics, stocks, a lot of things that were male dominated. This is the same premise, different vocation, of course, but just I would encourage them to just go after whatever they want to, because everything is out there is possible. If you have that mentality and that desire to move forward, I see no reason why they can't be competent cloud architects too.
Right. Let's see here. From Gregory. How long does it take? Where did it go? How long does it normally take to complete the Cloud Architect Career Development Program? Also, do I need to complete the Cloud Architect Career Development Program before moving on to the Technical Interview Skills course?
You're mute, Mike.
Gregory, it's a great question. And I'm going to give you it depends, and then I'm going to give you the variables so you better understand why it depends. So I don't know how much time you have to study. I don't know how much time you have to learn. I don't know your level of knowledge right now. So there's that. Now, Gregory, I will tell you, Richard Ofukar took our program and left our program within 3 weeks because he was hired by a technical account manager by AWS. I will also tell you that Joe Millen, he and I worked together at Cisco. He was a dual CCIE, so he had a good, strong networking background. He was in my program for 3 weeks before he got his first job as a senior solution architect with AWS. That is an anomaly. I also have students that, 12 months later, had to go to Ethiopia or India or another country to go take care of a sick family member that, weren't ready by the end of the year, but that's okay. They stayed with the program and got hired later, and that's okay too. I would say between 6 and 12 months is on average what we're seeing from the time somebody joins to the time they are hired. I will tell you the macroeconomic environment and microeconomic environments matter a lot. A little bit of geopolitical instability right now. Some high interest rates, well, not high interest rates, but rising interest rates going on right now. So I would expect it to take closer to the 10 to 12 months with the current macroeconomic environment as opposed to the 6 to 8 months. But you also have a networking background, and networking people get sucked up faster than anybody else. But you'll get there. But I like to say 6 to 12 months. But, I've seen people that did it in 3 weeks, and I've seen people that need a little longer. But as long as you're there, you'll get there. I look forward to when you tell me you're hired too.
Okay. All right. So for Ram says, could you kindly talk about the cyber resiliency design aspect in cloud and its importance as we see the resiliency aspect is in demand?
That is not a 5-minute conversation nor a 5-hour conversation, but ideally about a 50-hour conversation to talk about it correctly. By the time you're aware of all the trade-offs that you have to make, and that's the kind of thing we would do in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, not something that we could do in a 4-hour session or even a 2-hour career question and answer session.
Shakir says, how do you get your first cloud security architect role? I ask because everyone asks for what we've designed in the past, and of course we cannot fool around in an interview.
No, you can't. So the key is, Shakir, when people leave my program, they have a laundry list of complicated system designs that most people will never do in a 25-year career. Why? Because I was a principal architect within the first 2 years of my life, and my students do the kind of architectures that only principal architects get to do. And by doing so, they're that great. you're going to have to get some architecture training where you do system designs. It's not going to be a boot camp. I can promise you that. It's not going to be any program that gives you certifications, because certifications have nothing to do with architecture. You join the program, you'll have the experience and you'll have the designs. But you can download the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job and come to the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And in there, we will tell you the entire list of skills that you need. And if you get the right training, you'll have no idea how, you'll know completely how to design these systems. Completely. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. How did somebody get their first doctor job? They go to medical school. How does somebody become a lawyer? They go to law school. How does somebody become an accountant? They go to school for it. So it's not that the architect job is not like engineering. You can train on your own and learn how to be an engineer. Now, granted, most people won't be able to find the right information to do it, but they can do it. Architecture, you need to be taught, and you need to be able to show the designs that you've actually done. So I would say find yourself an architect program. Now, here's how you can judge an architect program. If the person's not been an architect and a principal architect for at least a decade, don't study from them. So that's going to narrow down like your 1,000 options to like 3 of them. But at least those 3 people are actual architects. The next thing, if it doesn't have sales training, business acumen training, leadership training, emotional intelligence training, presentation training, and negotiation training, you'll never get a job. So ignore that, because it's not an architect program, it's an engineering program. Learn those things, learn system design, and be able to talk about it. You know, here's the thing. If you can get an interview, they're willing to hire you. When they ask you a question and you can't answer it, and even if you've not done it, if you know how to do it, you can still say, well, I've not done this, here's how I can do that, and still get hired. But that's the key, is you have to know. You have to know. And that's really the way to describe it. For example, I had someone recently that got hired with no experience. And they said, how would you secure a web application? Or have you secured a web application in the past? I'm sorry. And they said, well, I haven't done it in a production network, but here's what I would do. First thing I would do is I would take a network load balancer and I would front end it with 2 Palo Alto next generation firewalls. But because you said it was really critical, I'd take another network load balancer and front end 2 Fortinet or checkpoint firewalls. Beyond that, in that subnet, what I would do is I would create an access list to protect the subnet. Then what I would do is I would take my load I'd create an access list on the subnet. Then I'd create an access list of some type on the load balancer, or a security group of some type on the load balancer. Then I would take my web servers, and on those web servers, I'd put a host-based firewall, some anti-malware protection on there. I'd disable all the unnecessary services. And then I would encrypt the storage, and the person stopped them in the interview and said, I get it, you know enough, maybe you should be interviewing us on security. And they moved on and they hired the person. So you can't fake competency. And by proving you're competent, you're hired. You got to show competency, and that's the key. So it's not what you've done, it's what you can do. Everybody has to get their first job. Come to the free webinar, we'll make it real clear for you.
All right, so Alonzo asked for some clarification on this next question, but I haven't seen it come in from Miss Lamb and Jam, and I don't understand either. So I'm in agreement with Alonzo here. Although Miss Lamb and Jam, I know where you're going to have access to us tomorrow night, so you can probably come and ask us if you want to clarify. Mike, what are your thoughts on cloud architects being advocates for our organization to a dedicated, quote, cloud center of excellence?
Oh, I know what she's talking about. So, Miss Lamb and Jammin, I know you real well. So here's how I'm interpreting what you're saying. If this is not the case, let me know tomorrow night. So a lot of organizations are developing what's called the Cloud Center of Excellence. And really that is like, it's a group of people that are like, hey, this is the cloud and these are all the cool things we do with it. Do you know what the best Cloud Center of Excellence is? a really great chief information officer. And a really great chief information officer that has enterprise architects and cloud architects becomes the best cloud center of excellence. Now,
I realize what we're talking about now. Okay.
I know where you're getting this, Ms. Lam and Jamin, is you're finding a lot of companies, they're creating a cloud center of excellence. And here's what it does. Now we've got our application people. Now we've got our network people. Now we've got our security people. Now we've got our cloud people, and we've separated them. And then what happens is we end up focusing on the technology and not the business. There goes all our digital transformation, and the company goes bankrupt. So we're seeing a lot of cloud centers of excellence. And in theory, I love it. Because you're building a team of experts with a core competency on the cloud. Great. But Ms. Lam and Jamin, what's the point of the technology? Is to improve the business. And the second we start getting out of the focus in the business and on the focus into the cloud, we just became great engineers and terrible architects. So I would advocate mapping business processes down. I would advocate creating a great architecture repository. I would advocate and go talk there with the C-suite. And I would try to break down the cloud, break down the silos of the application developers. Because Ms. Lam and Jamin, I strongly adhere to the African proverb, which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I want all my experts working on everything. When I design in a cloud architecture, even though I'm a network architect, I grab another network architect. I grab some security architects. I grab some IAM architects. I grab some big data architects, some DevOps engineers, some data scientists even. Because guess what? They all know their world better than I will. And I go lead that team. That becomes my center of excellence for everything I do. I build my team. But I love the idea, and I love where you got it. But I think we got to go now.
Basically, this cloud center of excellence things that companies are doing, this is where they create a brain trust that focuses on this particular thing. Is that where? Okay. The problem that a lot of these always end up having is that, okay, presumably they start off with a purpose. That purpose goes away really quickly. And then there's no purpose to it anymore. Or people forget the purpose, lose the purpose. And now they're just there, and they end up creating a lot of stuff for people within the company to have to deal with. So yeah. Now that I understand what we're talking about here, if they've got a purpose and that, like a real purpose and a true purpose, and it's something that's actually needed and can be accomplished with focus and dedication, then these types of things are great. I don't know about cloud center of excellence because I'm not a cloud guy, I'm a business guy, but I got plenty of business center of excellence experiences where I'm like, oh God, I wish this just went away. So yeah, now I understand what now I understand what we're talking about. So yeah, but gotta have a purpose and actually a need for the purpose. Okay. I'm going to let the Greek guy read the thing that's Greek to me.
Okay, so Mohammed, you're basically mixing 3 careers in a single sentence.
That's why it's Greek to me. Okay.
So cloud architects don't manage anything. And you're actually, I don't even know what you're talking about, honestly. You might be talking about super cloud, possibly. You might be talking about management frameworks, like different applications. Honestly, I really don't know what you're actually asking here.
It sounds like a complicated explanation for a sysadmin to me.
Yeah, so, yeah. I don't get involved in maintenance because architects don't get involved in maintenance. There's separate teams for that. So I'm not really sure what you're actually asking, Mohammed. I'd love to help you. I know where you're located. You're super nice. You participate in so many things. So if you can ask it in another way, but this is a career question, and that really sounds like you're talking about sysops, but I actually just don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Try asking it another way.
All right. Let's see. Okay.
From Paul, is a cloud architect also an expert in system design? For example, do they structure a system into a multiple microservices, or does he or she apply domain-driven design?
Paul, let me try and explain the architect position a little better. Let's assume the organization systems are on cloud. That means all of their servers, all of their storage, microservices, if they use them or not, which may or may not be the rights, all their microsystems, all of their security, all their data. So right there, I just talked about 5 different careers. Now, the architect is a design expert, but you can't possibly design everything. Paul, what if I told you just to learn my CCI exam, which would be about 10% of all the technical components of cloud architecture, I read 75,000 pages. And I remembered them too. Now multiply that times 10 to 15, and now you're dealing with all of cloud computing, because that was only routing and switching. That didn't include voice, it didn't include video, it didn't include wireless networking, and that's just networking, let alone containers and orchestration and servers. So you can't learn it all. The reason the architect needs to be such a good leader is this. I go meet with, we've got a lot of cloud architects students that graduate that work at JP Morgan Chase. Let's say I go meet with the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and he's talking about a new trading system that he wants to do. That's going to have implications on the network, compute, storage, potentially AI, big data, and everywhere in between. And it probably might affect, it's going to affect other things as well. It'll affect the voice systems, the video systems in the organization. It's going to affect their security. So just that means I now need to go talk to stakeholders wherever. Now, Paul, let's say I'm working for Microsoft. I leave there, I go back to my company at Microsoft, and I tell my manager, look, I'm on a $200 million opportunity. And my manager's like, woohoo, go, let me buy you some steaks and some scotch and talk about it. You go out with your manager, you drink and eat with your manager, and your manager says, what do you need from me? And you tell your manager, I'm going to need 2 cloud security architects, 3 cloud network architects, 2 application architects, 10 DevOps engineers, this, and to help you design it. And poof, you got to go lead that team of people that don't work for you. Now you're going to have to sell all your managers why you need the people. And then when you're done, you're going to be there. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We can't afford to get too deep on anything, because we could be dealing with careers that could take a total combination for any cloud architecture of at least 1,500 years to learn. And every architecture I work on, I've got 40 to 50 people. But I want you to think of this, Paul. Let's say Alonzo was the CEO of your company, and you've got $1 billion architecture. I want you to just hear the way this is going to sound. Hey, Alonzo. So Alonzo, it's Mike Gibbs. You know me. I'm the lead architect at Cisco. I've got 25 years experience. I've gone back and I've looked at your business requirements, and I've designed an architecture that's going to improve your trading system and make you money. How interested are you? Look at him. Now watch this, Paul. Watch the change in Alonzo's. Alonzo, I heard what you said. I went back to my team and I built a team of 50 people strong. I got 3 network architects. 2 of them spent 2 decades at Cisco. The other one's from Juniper Networks. I know your security is good, so I found some security architects from Palo Alto, Fortinet, and Checkpoint. For your load balancing needs and all those things, we went in there at F5 because they're the industry leader. We spoke to Dell, we spoke to Microsoft, we spoke to Amazon, we spoke to Google. The team of 50 people has over 1,000 years total combined experience. Together, we've crafted a design that's going to enhance your security, which is going to reduce your risk. It's going to increase the revenue that your financial advisors will be able to do, help their assistants also place trades on their behalf, and also create a new financial product which we can enable with this high-speed networking. Alonzo, would you like to hear more?
Extremely, yes.
So in the first case, I've designed billion-dollar systems. I'm an expert. He's somewhat interested. In the second case, I showed him all the great people that I brought, which were smarter than me. And now I got a team of 1,000 years of experience versus my 25. So build architecture is a team sport. You're going to lead that team. So we're all going to have our areas of expertise. Mine is BGP. I've designed half of the internet service provider systems that are there. But if I focus on BGP, I can't focus on the company, which means I lose everything. So I'd still bring in a network architect. Now, if I was working on a smaller architecture, I could do it myself. But you're mixing application architecture and all these other things. Cloud architecture, enterprise architecture is very generic. And it's a great question you asked, Paul.
Back to Test Sock. What role would have work-life balance since I need to spend time with my family and children? Is it the cloud architect, cloud security architect, or cloud architect role?
If your main goal is work-life balance, I really think that, looking at any job that pays over $50,000 a year is not a good idea. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and the reason is when people pay you more than $50,000 a year, they have demands on you. Now, I'll also say you create your own work-life balance. And I will tell you that the cloud architect job has a better work-life balance than 90% of the jobs that actually exist out there, because you set your time. The cloud architect role, it is different than the engineering role. You don't come in at 2 o'clock in the morning to go fix something that's broken. You're not there creating the code on a tight deadline. You're not turning up systems. So I will tell you these are the best. I would tell you the cloud architect is going to be better than the cloud security architect. The closer you are to the business, the more money you'll make and the easier your job will be. The closer you are to the technology, the more specialized you're going to have to be constantly on the technology. And when the technology breaks, people are going to be more interested in talking to you than if you're toast all the time to the business. So for the most earnings, don't focus on technology, focus on generic cloud architecture. For the best quality of life, focus on generic cloud architecture, not a specific technology. Are you noticing a theme? The more you need to be technical enough to a point, and you got to be stronger than most people know what it is. And then once you're there, stay away from the tech, focus on improving the business, improve the business. Just enough tech to be good, and the rest of it in business. Same thing for a physician. Family physician or internist on average earns $250,000 a year. You make them a CEO of a healthcare system or a pharmaceutical company. Now they're focused a lot more on business and a lot less on the medicine or the medication, and now they're earning $50 million a year. Same person, same skills, different focus. So focus on the generic cloud architecture. You'll have more time with family and kids, and you'll create your own balance. And the better your business skills are, the better your leadership skills are, the better your sales skills are, and the better your communication skills are, the better you'll be able to ask for what you want and get it.
All right. So we are currently at our last question, which is going to be from Easy Guide Gaming. So if anybody's got any more questions, make sure to put them in the chat box here so that we can answer them for you. We will be stopping here in the next few minutes or so. So we have until 4. So give us your questions. If we don't have any more questions, then we'll see all of you tomorrow on the webinar. But this is currently our last question from Easy Guide Gaming. Only just managed to join now. Guessing they are referring to the live stream. Do you believe it's worth getting a CCNA before trying to work in cloud for solid fundamentals, or is this not really necessary these days?
Easy Guide Gaming, I have no idea what job you want to do in the cloud. And until I know what you'd like to do, I can't tell you whether it makes sense. If your goal is to be a cloud developer, do not get a CCNA. If your job is to be a DevOps engineer, don't get a CCNA. If your job is to be a cloud architect, a CCNP might be helpful. But it's all based upon what you want to do. And you haven't told me. So I need to know your goal career. And that's where it really matters. When you train a pro athlete, they have what's called specificity training. I train an NFL running back differently than I do a defensive lineman. I train an architect very differently than I train an engineer. I train a doctor very differently than I train a lawyer. Okay, cloud architect. So Easy Guide Gaming. The question I would ask you is, have you taken training on how to sell? Have you taken training on how to lead? Have you taken training in executive presence? Do you know how to write a document for the CEO versus the CFO? Do you know how to build a business case inclusive of an ROI model? What's your knowledge of BGP? What's your knowledge of system design? Those would be there. Because certifications in and of themselves just teach the name of somebody's service and how to configure it. which is not the same as how to design. Not a specialization on how to design. So tell me, so that's what I really need to know. Because, you know, if you, a CCNA is great, a CCNP is better, and a CCIE is the best. Not that it's worth doing a CCIE. Some of the fundamentals are covered in the CCNA and some are not. But again, the CCNA is how to configure. Router OSPF1, network 10.0.0.0, 0.0.0.3, area 0. That's what you learn in the what do you call it? In the CCNA. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. What LSAs are in area 0? What is a type 1 LSA versus a type 2 LSA versus a type 3 LSA versus a type 4, a type 5, a type 7? You need to know that if you're going to design a system, and you won't learn that by configuring systems. So what have you done so far? What have you done on the leadership side, the sales side, the executive presence presentation? You tell me that, and I can tell you. Otherwise, I would prioritize those things over there.
All right. Test Sock says, thanks, Mike. Should I pursue an MBA to become a cloud architect besides taking up your course? What is the specialization I need to take up an MBA? MBA is the special. Management, business.
Anything not in technology.
Yes.
So Test Sock, look, you don't need an MBA to become a cloud architect, but I highly recommend one because it will take you and move you up.
It helps.
I only recommend one. I have one. Chris has one. Alonzo has one up there. And it's highly, highly recommended. But in management, don't get an MBA in tech management, people management, because we have to. Most of what we do is manage people.
MBA, Masters in Business Administration. Business Administration. That's business.
Yeah. Can cloud architect roles be fully remote?
It depends what you mean by fully remote. I've worked remote as an architect since 2000. No, wait, 2001, I'm sorry. It was 2001 when I started working remote as an architect. But you have to understand is we have to talk to our clients. So I lived in Palm Beach. Let's face it, there's nothing big in Palm Beach. And all my clients were in London and Dubai and San Jose. So I worked from home and then I'd fly to them. The reason the cloud architect role can't be outsourced is you have to go visit your clients. So as long as you're willing to be able to travel to your clients when needed, there's almost no reason to ever go to an office. Nobody expects you to, but they do expect you to be able to meet with a client. There is a difference between taking somebody to Morton's, buying them some seafood or some steak or some wine and some scotch, and being with them in person and looking them in the eyes than there is trying to do Zoom. And I love Zoom. And I hate travel because I've done hundreds of thousands of miles a year for as many decades as you can imagine. But kind of keep that in mind. Yes, you can be fully remote as long as you're willing to visit the client site.
All right. Does anybody else have any more questions? We are here for your questions. All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, then let's wrap it up. I'm going to ask Tyrone to share the link to tomorrow's free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. So you can join us on Zoom. That will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that'll be a 2-hour webinar where you can come in and talk with us and ask us your questions and come off mute and off Zoom and all that good stuff. Not off Zoom, but on camera and off mute. And yeah, so we will see everybody tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you all. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Have a good evening.
Take care, everyone.